Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 177. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Today, we are talking about Stranger Things 5, Kirby Air Riders, Fortnite Chapter 7, Zootopia 2, and more. So, let's begin with our recent activities in gaming and entertainment. I will go first. So, just to get into the entertainment part of things, I watched Running Man. This is one of the newest blockbuster films in Hollywood, and it is a action film, I believe, is how you would categorize it. It stars Glenn Powell, right. And it pretty much is about this dystopian America where everyone's poor. Like pretty much like 98% of the population is poor. But if you do these game shows, such as The Running Man, you are able to win an insane amount of money. So Glenn Powell's character, he's in this situation where he feels like he has to go within this game show. And we kind of just follow that journey. And it's a lot of things that we've seen before. My girlfriend pointed out the Hunger Games as like a really good like comparison to it, where it's like these games are happening because people are in bad situations. So we're kind of just following their journey, and the sort of themes and the messaging is very similar to that. Overall, I thought it was a fine movie. It was definitely disappointing just because if you watch the trailer, it has a lot of aura, a lot of hype, I would say.
It does, yeah.
I was very, very excited to see that one, and I was just left a little bit disappointed just because, you know, going into it, I knew that it was not going to be as good as it was hyped up to be just because of the reviews and other people seeing it at that point. But overall, Running Man is a fine film. The newest blockbuster movie, though, is Zootopia 2. This literally came out, I believe, just last week, just in time for Thanksgiving. And as a Zootopia enjoyer, I really did like the first film. I saw it way back in the day during our senior year, 10 years ago. Holy fuck.
2016, yeah.
My God. But, you know, the fact that they decided to finally make a sequel to it is kind of interesting. This is another one of those Disney animated films where it is a sequel and it actually takes place like relatively close to where the last movie ended. And they show that stuff before we get into the new adventure. And it's not the same exact messaging. I don't want to give away too much, but it's pretty much Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde go on another buddy cop investigative adventure. And it's a lot of fun. The messaging is a little bit different. There is still, some like racism sort of,
right, yeah.
Underlining there where it's like, these animals are doing this thing and they're trying to keep them out. And I believe this time it is about reptiles with like snakes and whatnot. So that was a kind of a interesting little twist that they did compared to Prey versus Predator. But yeah, overall, Zootopia 2 was a lot of fun. Definitely not as good as Zootopia 1. I think that when it comes to like Disney sequels, especially ones that they sort of dig into like their vault and they're like, you know what, we can like make a sequel out of this. This one was definitely on the much better side, I would say.
Yeah, I've heard about that, yeah. Like, Disney sequels in general are pretty bad most of the time. So it's cool to have one that's actually, like, good. And a lot of Disney movies recently have been, like not really doing super well in the box office or just review-wise. So it's cool for Disney to, well, I know, multi-billion-dollar company, but yeah, it's cool for them to get, like, a win and actually have, like, a good animated movie for once. Because I know, like, Moana 2, I think, was, like, really bad. So having Zootopia 2 actually be, like, a good movie is a nice change of pace for Disney.
Certainly. And then on the gaming side of things, I've been a little bit under the weather for the past week, so I haven't been able to play too much. But I've been diving back into Sonic Rumble again and again, pretty much every single day. And the reason being is because I spent $25 on microtransactions. So I was like,
yeah.
So I was like, I gotta like get like my time into it, but also I am going to do a review video about it. So I really want to get enough hours into it where I feel like I could have like a strong opinion about it. I have over 10 hours on it, which is a lot. But Sonic Rumble, if you guys don't know what this is pretty much a free-to-play Fall Guys-like Sonic game. It has all of the Fall Guys motifs where you have these little mini games, whether you survive or just race to the end. But you got Sonic rings, you got Sonic items, you got all of this other cool stuff. And it's a very quick, fast-paced sort of game where it is guaranteed 3 rounds, and the final round you are crowned the winner or you're just within the top 8. And one thing I noticed as I keep playing is that I get bored very, very fast. I'm like, yeah, it's definitely not as fun if you're playing by yourself. playing with friends definitely makes it a lot more enjoyable because you get to see how your other friends are doing, or you could screw them over. Because, like I said, it's literally just 3 rounds, so there's a lot that can happen between those 3 rounds. But yeah, I mean, overall, Sonic Rumble is still a lot of fun. I think the microtransactions are definitely a little egregious. Even like the battle passes stuff, like there's like a season battle pass, and then there's event battle passes, which are another $10 sort of transaction that you have to do to get these skins, these emotes, these whatever, like it's just a bunch of extra stuff. And you can't use red rings to unlock those passes. You have to use another $10 extra. And that kind of pisses me off a little bit because I'm just like, I have all of these red rings that I don't really want to use on like these skins. But I did use the red rings to get Tangle and Whisper because it was like a Black Friday 40% off kind of deal. And obviously Tangle and Whisper, I'm going to fucking get those characters either way. But,
right, yeah.
I just hate the sort of the microtransaction and the sort of business model behind Sonic Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, paying for every battle pass is like crazy. Like most other mobile games would just have like an event and like you just do it and get rewards. Like maybe you get free reward, and you get free rewards by doing the battle pass, like the other event battle passes. But having like 4 of them active at one time feels like insane. So
yeah,
I think the monetization is definitely like a point off this game, but it is fun. Like you said, playing it by yourself isn't as fun as playing it with friends, because when we're all together, all yelling at each other, like, oh, did you get eliminated? It's a lot more fun that way. But it's a good game. Like, I understand all the complaints about it. And, it does deserve that criticism. But if you're just looking for a dumb, like, Sonic Fall Guys clone, I think it's pretty good. And, I think Fall Guys is kind of like dead at the moment. So, here you go. You got Stumble Guys in this, so there you go. I mean, you can still play Fall Guys, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, this one definitely is a lot more active. There are people grinding this game out every single day, and they're like hundreds of levels above me, and it's crazy. Yeah. But, the Sonic stuff definitely itches that part of my brain to keep playing, so... Then the last thing that I've been doing before we get into Kirby Air Riders and Stranger Things, Shooty Robot Invasion. This is a indie game that I was asked to check out and review, and I wanted to get it out by last week, but obviously under the weather, so I haven't been able to. But also the game is a little bit longer than I expected. I believe on average people are finishing it within 8 hours, and I'm about 5 to 6 hours in, something like that. So pretty much this is a first-person action-adventure shooting game where you are playing as this girl named Shooty, I believe, and you are trying to stop a robot invasion. And the dialogue is very witty, it's very crude, very much like, kind of like middle school kind of humor where they're just cursing a lot. Sometimes things don't make sense, but like that's like the humor of it. And there is like a lot more story to it. Like it is very narrative driven towards like 1/3 of the game. I noticed. I was like, whoa, like they're really like diving into the background of these characters and all that stuff. And I was kind of thrown back by it. I was like, whoa, like that's kind of cool. Because of that, I think some people might get a different idea of what this game is, including myself. Because like when I went into it, I was like, oh, okay, like everything's hand drawn. You're fighting against robots. Their like main thing is like nothing's like AI generated. I'm like, oh, okay, know, like they're playing towards that sort of thing with us fighting against robots. So I thought it would just be like a bullet hell kind of thing where we would just be shooting robots endlessly, which when you do fight robots, it is a lot of fun. You have this movement option where you could dash across and forwards, backwards, side to side, whatever. And you don't have to reload. Like you have unlimited bullets. You don't have to worry about shooting other humans. The bullets only hurt robots. So when you get to the gunplay, it is a lot of fun, but it is very much in this like weird camp where in the first world you are doing a lot of like missions and like objectives kind of thing where it's like this character will tell you to do this, so you have to do that to progress within the story and fight more robots. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I exactly like that, but moving forward into the game and going into the next world and then the worlds after and learning more about the world and the story, I'm kind of into it. I can see why some people may not be, because you get this idea of what the game might be. You go into it and it's like, all right, you need to like do these kinds of missions to advance. And it's like, I just want to shoot robots, Right. So, but it's only $10. So it's not like the biggest like complaint about it, I would say. For $10, you are getting like a pretty beefy indie game, I would say. And especially for them hand drawing everything and really putting the time and effort into the writing, the story, and obviously the gameplay of it is still a lot of fun. So, there's definitely some fun to be had here. I just think that you might think of the game as one way, but just going into it, just know that there's more story and more of like mission-based stuff going on here.
Alrighty, so on to things I have been playing. So before we get to Air Riders and Fortnite, let me just talk about things I was just doing by myself. So Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, I finished this like really shortly after the last podcast. I didn't have that much more to go. And I basically feel the same way about the game. It's okay. Like I feel like the story-wise, it like promises, not a lot, but it promises that, hey, we're going to show you what happened during the Age of Imprisonment, like what happened in the past with the first king of Hyrule and how Ganondorf rose to power. But I feel like you already got most of that plot points in Tears of the Kingdom with the flashbacks. I thought this game would flesh out the story and characters a lot more than it did, but it really doesn't. It kind of just like, hey, like we show the armies marching around and like fighting some other guys, and there's some side plot going around that's like that wasn't canon to the. Well, I mean, it's canon, but it wasn't like mentioned in Tears of the Kingdom. So like, who kind of cares? Even though I actually ended up liking that plot point more than like the main plot, just because I feel like Tears of the Kingdom actually did it pretty well with just the flashbacks alone. So again, it promises a lot in terms of story, and it doesn't really deliver, in my opinion. And not as bad as Age of Calamity, because Age of Calamity kind of just went crazy by the end, and not like in a super good way. But it still wasn't like super great. Gameplay wise, it's about what you expect from a Dynasty Warriors game. You're mowing down a bunch of dudes. Like I mentioned before, you have the Zonai devices and stuff, Zelda items, so that kind of spices up the gameplay quite a bit. But also what I mentioned in the last podcast episode, I think the character roster is like really weak. Like there's only like half the roster I think is like fun and like interesting, and then the other half are just like NPCs that you're just like playing as, and it's like kind of lame. So yeah, overall I think the game is fun. Like if you've never played a Warriors game before, or if you really like Tears of the Kingdom and like sort of that version of Hyrule, like I think it's a fun time. Like I said, the graphics, the frame rate, all that stuff is just like such a big improvement from Age of Calamity. Honestly, it makes me a bit sad Age of Calamity didn't get a Switch 2 version, because that game kind of runs like ass. So just having the game run at like 60 frames, like no drops at all. Like I don't think I've noticed a single drop in this game, which is very impressive, because there's just like explosions everywhere and like so many enemies on the screen. So I definitely have to give applause for that. But the game stuff was like okay. Like it's definitely a game like I already forgot. I almost forgot I even put it here because I just like forgot I played it. So It was all right. Something to fill out the time. If you want to play something on your Switch 2, you could do worse. There's a ton of content after the fact. A bunch of different challenge missions. I think it got some free DLC recently. So definitely a lot to keep you busy. But I put my 20 hours into it. I'm like I'm good. So yeah. Next game. All right, this game I've been meaning to play for like 3 months now, but there were just so many other bigger games coming out, like Borderlands, Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yode, that I just couldn't have the time for it. But Trails in the Sky. So this is a JRPG series that I've heard a lot about. This is one of the more unique RPG series, or JRPG series, because tells like a continuous story. So there's not a lot of JRPGs that do this. A lot of them are like, you could play Final Fantasy 16 while playing the other 15. You don't have to play every single Final Fantasy game. Persona as well. You don't have to play Personas 1 through 4 to understand 5. A lot of JRPGs are like that. But, this is one of the few JRPGs that actually does tell like a grand story that takes multiple games to get through. Probably the most popular one is Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts, you kind of have to play the whole series to fully understand the story. I think that's both a really cool thing and a bad thing, because, it's hard for players to really get in there, especially if the games are older or harder to, access nowadays. Kingdom Hearts is a great example of this because, they did a good job actually remastering all the old games. It's very accessible to play through the whole series for the most part. The only games you really can't play are the DS games, but that's it. So I think Square actually did a great job making that series really accessible to just play throughout, like the current generation. With the Trails games, this is made by Falcom, I think, or I forgot the name of the developer. But, this series started on the PSP, and you can only really play it on Steam, I believe, the first game. So it wasn't really accessible to console players. So them tried to do this big budget remake of the first game, seems like a great way to bring in new players. And, you know, I've heard from people that have played this series, like, hey, if you like Xenoblade, you probably would like this game quite a bit. And that, you know, that piques my interest because I love Xenoblade. So me playing this game, it's great. Like it's a very slow start, but I really don't mind. Like it really is like a beginning of a grander story. Like it's a very low key story of these two teenagers going through exploring the world, you know, very typical JRPG stuff. They're training to be bracers, which are like basically like these, I don't know what you describe them, like cops basically, to like go throughout this like fantasy world to sort of solve people's problems, go to these different countries, you know, learn about this world. And it does a great job sort of establishing this world, you know, its rules, all the neighboring nations around it, which is cool because you actually get to explore those in the future games, which is really cool to me. You know, a lot of JRPGs, they set up these like elaborate worlds, but you only really explore it for that one game. So having all this stuff set up in this first game and you get to really go in depth with each of these places, like in the future games, that's just very interesting to me. So yeah, story-wise, I think it's a lot of fun. I love the characters. They're all like just really fun. You know, just again, typical JRPG stuff, but I love it. The combat is also a ton of fun. It's really unique in the fact that it is a turn-based game, but you can sort of like move around. So when it's your turn, you can sort of like move around and use your abilities, but your abilities are kind of like in a 3D space. So if you do like a spell, you could do like a giant line AoE, and you kind of got to line it up. So if the enemy moves again, you know, they could get caught in that AoE. You could also like stun the enemies, so you could play a lot with that. You could like, there's a bunch of different stuff you could do in this game, like delaying turn orders and to have a bunch of buffs. Like it's a very fun, unique combat system that feels like a good blend of like traditional turn-based gameplay and having like a more real-time RPG series. And I like that. It has a lot of depth to it. And yeah, I just think that this is a great entry point to this JRPG series. I heard a lot of good things about. And I'm really excited to see them. Like, one, the game seems to be doing pretty well. Like, I think they're already doing the second remake next year, which is great. And yeah, I would just like to really explore this series because I heard so many good things about it. Maybe I'll beat it by next podcast. It's a long ass game, so I'm like 30 hours in, and it's like 60 hours, so it's gonna take me a while. Yeah. But I'm hoping I can finish it before my top 10 of the year because I think it might be up there. And I don't know why people are saying this game got snubbed so hard for the best RPG award for Game Awards because. Like take out Avowed. Avowed shouldn't be there. It should be this. So that's all I'm going to say. All right. But yeah, pretty good. All right. So now for the things we've both been playing. So Fortnite Season 7 came out. Fortnite. So I didn't get to watch the live event live because I unfortunately had to go to work. You know, I hadn't, got to have a job, unfortunately.
God,
I can't sit in and watch the Fortnite event. But I did watch it on YouTube, and that shit was insane. So I'm kind of miffed. I kind of missed it, but it looked really cool. And of course, that opened to the new season. They did a lot of UI changes, some gameplay changes as well. I believe you can wall jump again or something. You can like ragdoll. Everyone's like ragdolling now. That's really funny. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I really do enjoy the new, like, I guess, like in-game UI. It looks pretty clean. I love the new like kill feed. Like when you kill someone, it feels really good now. You get that little like Call of Duty like marker when you kill someone, and it feels very satisfying to kill people in this. And you got like new mythics. You have like the shock cannon. You have like the wingsuit. You have the Kill Bill sword. That's it basically is just like the kinetic blade, but like just a bit fancier. Mm-hmm. It's pretty good so far.
Yeah, I did watch the event live, even though I didn't really care about it. My girlfriend was like, "We gotta watch it." I was like, "Okay, fine, all right, we'll watch it." So, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty much like Avengers Endgame, but like Fortnite edition, where like every single IP of like recent years, it comes down and does all that stuff. But the new season is pretty cool. The new self-revive item is pretty dope, I will say, just because it makes sure that if you are fighting like a duo or even like a trio or a squad, you kind of have to like not necessarily thirst everyone, but it makes it so if you do knock all 4 members and like the first person somehow had a self-revive and like rolled their way back and like activated it, that will cause that to cause that team to still be within play, which is pretty cool. there was one moment where someone, I think it was a goddamn peacemaker, he was trying to like self revive. He did it right in front of me. I just killed him. I was like, yep, no, you're not doing that. Not right in front of me, bro. But yeah, like that's a pretty cool item. The like electric gun thing, whatever the hell, that thing's broken. I'm like, you don't even have to like completely aim. You just have to aim in like their direction.
Yeah,
and
it's
they
like
just,
Winston. Yeah.
It is just so annoying, but you can get obviously one tapped by like shotguns, SMGs a lot faster compared to it. But yeah, overall, the new UI changes, I'm a little indifferent to them because obviously I'm like so used to like where everything is.
I'm also very used to where everything is. Yeah, so I keep looking at how many people are remaining, and I keep looking at like the wrong side of the screen.
Yeah,
like, I'm just looking at things, and then it's not there anymore. So, yeah.
I mean, it feels like right now, it feels like that they just made that change for the sake of changing it. Yeah, but I'm sure that it'll get better as time goes on. I do like the way it looks though. I do like the sort of the way the health and like the shield look in the UI, but so far so good in terms of the new Fortnite season.
Alrighty, so last thing for the gaming stuff is Kirby Air Riders. So
yes.
This came out recently. We both have played it. I played a bit more than Travis, but so far I really enjoy it a lot. It's basically what I'm looking for in terms of a kart racer. It's very content filled. There's a ton of things to do. There's a story mode with boss fights. It's basically everything I would want in a kart racer. But in terms of like pure racing, right? Like if you're looking for just pure racing, I do think Mario Kart World and Sonic Crosswords are better. Yeah. Like if you're just looking for that, right? Like I think those games just offer more tracks. The controls are better, but if you're looking for just a full package, I think Air Riders has you covered. At least that's what I'm thinking. So
yeah, I mean, when it comes to Kirby Air Riders, like just like the racing mechanics, yes, everything is mapped to one button, which is kind of weird, which is why the game encourages you to play the tutorial and like go through the lessons. You could even do more lessons if you feel like you need to learn more. But there's no like traditional like 3-lap tracks or anything like that. It's all about the modes, right? So you have like the regular like race mode, and then you have like that top-down view with top ride, and then obviously city trial. That is like probably the most extensive mode out of all of them, which is pretty much a pretty much battle maybe not battle royale,
but it's like a battle royale, yeah.
But it's like a free for all. You're like in this part of town, and you just have to run around, get as many items as you can to make your cart better, find better carts, whichever cart you prefer to use, and then you pick one of the 4 little mini games at the end. You play that mini game, and hopefully you win it all. I mean, that game mode is definitely the most time consuming because it is like 5 or 6 minutes that you are just racing around trying to find stuff, and then you do the last mini game for like an extra like minute or two. And overall, I think Kirby Air Riders is a good package. I don't think it's going to be made for everyone. Definitely a skill issue for some people, but I also just think the overall game in and of itself is not exactly what people would categorize as like a traditional kart racer.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like I've seen a lot of like Kirby Air Ride, the original, was always a very divisive game, and that game was rushed, and like there was a lot of issues with it, like just as a game itself. But even the core gameplay was very like it just didn't appeal to everyone, right? The one button gameplay, the tracks being really simple, every cart just kind of moves by itself. I think Sakurai didn't really change the fundamentals too much. He just polished it to like to perfection, right? Like this is like Kirby Air Ride if it was like Omega polished, and that's basically what this is. So if you didn't like the original Kirby Air Ride, I really don't think you would like this game to begin with. And the one button gameplay is I'm still kind of mixed on. Honestly, the only thing I hate is this quick spin. Like having that mapped on the control stick makes me want to die. Like that, I wish that was on the triggers. Like that's the only thing that I actually like actively don't like about this game, because there's so many times where I would quick spin by accident, and that actually does slow you down, and it like cost me a race. Or I do want to quick spin, and I'm not quick spinning. And I know you could like change the sensitivity of the stick, so you can make like a harder like flick to do it, but then it's way too hard, and then I feel like I need to have like jam my goddamn pro controller to do it. So I feel like there's no happy middle ground in terms of the quick spin. Everything else is fine. Like you can get used to it. Like inhaling and braking, like attack and braking and boosting all on the same button feels like a lot at first, but it does feel pretty natural once you actually get into it. It's mostly just the quick spin that makes me want to die. But in terms of this content, I spent a lot of time in the road trip mode. And,
Yes.
I think I think Sakurai really perfected like the single player mode in his games, Subspace Emissary, people have such great memories of Subspace. I do as well. I did love Subspace, but like when you get down to it and replay it, like it's okay. Like I think the gameplay of Subspace is okay. Everyone just remembers the cutscenes, right? Like the cutscenes are amazing in that. Because the Great Maze sucks ass, and I hate the Great Maze. But with World of Light, I think I'm like the only World of Light enjoyer like ever. But that game offered a ton of things to do, but it was like 2 cutscenes in that whole thing, and like people just felt like it wasn't enough to really carry a single player mode. And the finale was amazing, but that was kind of all I had to it. If you just didn't want to keep doing spirit battles over and over. This mode, I think, is the right length. If you're doing the true ending, it's around 5 hours, and I think a run takes maybe 2-ish hours to just get through. And in the first run, you get like a bunch of cutscenes. Like they explain like how the air ride machines like got there. They explain this like mysterious like Zora or whatever his name is coming down, and that's really cool. You just get a ton of story. The cutscenes look super good. Like the CGI they use for this is like insane. And then in the second run, you get like the grand finale, and that finale is fucking awesome. Like holy shit! Like I was doing that, and I know Kirby games always end in big bombastic moments, but I wasn't expecting that in a kart racer. So like just a slight spoiler warning. Like skip 2 seconds if you don't want to hear it. There's like a boss rush, bro. I'm like, what do you mean? There's like a boss rush in like a Kirby like kart racer? It's so cool. And then, all the other game modes I think are all like excellent. Like Air Ride, I learned to appreciate it a lot more playing it more as I was doing the checklist challenges. There's a lot of little things you could do to optimize how fast you go, like killing enemies give you a speed boost, knowing when to drift, when not to drift, doing perfect landings, when to glide. Like there is a lot of little things in this game, and I wasn't feeling it at first because it feels very automated, like, oh, you just go, like where's the skill in that? But once you really get down to it and you get your ass kicked online, it's like, okay, there is kind of a lot you could do in this game to really further optimize how the game works. And of course City Trial is like you were saying, that this is like the main mode in my opinion. Like City Trial is so fun. There's just so many different events you could do, so many stadium challenges at the end you can do. The game always changes what vehicles are available. Depending how the match goes, your stats are going to be different, so you got to change your strategy on the fly. It's just very fun and replayable because it's just so random and so many things happening at once that it just feels like crack. Like there was a night where I just played nothing but City Trial because it was just so fun. So I the checklist challenges are also just something Sakurai always puts in his games, and that just adds even more replayability with a ton of unlocks to get, new characters, new stages, new music. This game is just super content packed, and I'm a weirdo where when it comes to racing games or when it comes to like fighting games, like the core gameplay is obviously important, I won't deny that, but as someone that's more casual with these type of games, I like to have a more complete package and feel like I got my money's worth. That's why I really like Street Fighter 6. Street Fighter 6 because it had the World Tour mode, and that wasn't anything crazy, but just having like this full stupid like Street Fighter beat 'em up RPG with like the fighting game, like it just made me feel like I got my money's worth. And I was able to put in like an extra like 10-ish hours into the game, just enjoying it as like a casual fun. And I think Sakurai is always really good at that as well. So yeah, Kirby Air Riders is just fantastic, just full of great fan service from Kirby, the polish you expect from a Sakurai game, and the content you expect from a Sakurai game. And you just got, I think, my favorite kart racer of this year. I don't like, again, like you said, it's very preference. Like if you like the pure racing, I think Sonic Cross Worlds and Mario Kart are better. But in terms of my opinion, this is definitely my favorite of the 3. But they're all good. All those kart racers are really good. So.
I'm only like, I want to say 6 hours into Kirby Air Riders. I still have a ways to go in terms of the road trip mode, which is the solo/story mode. But yeah, I mean, overall, like you said, there is so much to do. It is a Smash Brothers game kind of collectathon. Like there's so much. It
feels like a Smash Bros game, yeah.
Yeah, like the menus look like Smash Brothers. The announcers sound similar to Smash Brothers. There's a lot to do within Kirby Air Riders, and if that's what you want from a kart racer, this is it. This is the package to do it. Because I feel like Mario Kart World, that sort of free roam, open world aspect of it, it's cool, but I think it doesn't really hit the same levels as Kirby Air Rider does,
Yeah.
where really doing anything and everything will unlock stuff within the game.
Yeah.
And then Sonic Cross Worlds, those unlockables are really tied to, I think, the currency. So it's just about grinding the game out.
Yeah.
But the road trip mode is a lot of fun. I think, like you said, when it comes to Sakurai single player modes, I did not play Smash Ultimate single player. Obviously, everyone has nostalgia for Subspace Emissary. But road trip, I was having a lot of fun. I think for some reason IGN said you could complete a run within 90 minutes. I'm like, that's a fucking lie.
It took me like 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm like, the current run that I'm on, I'm like several hours in because some of them I was just getting fucked up on, honestly.
Yeah,
like,
some of them are like hard. Like I don't know why some of it like gets hands. I'm like, why am I losing to a baby game? But
bro,
it actually does get hard.
Some of the levels were just fucking me up. I was like, yo, I am not bad at this game. Also, this game only has one button. What the fuck is going on? But yeah, some of those races are extremely tight. Like you have to make sure that you are doing things like legit perfectly.
Yeah, perfect.
Or you get lucky with like something going on with like the NPCs and they're like somehow behind you or whatever. Because sometimes I'm just like, how did they just speed past me for no fucking reason? Anyways. But yeah, Kirby Air Riders is a lot of fun. It is definitely my least favorite in terms of the 3 kart racers that we've gotten this year, Sonic and Mario included. But still, overall, I think Kirby Air Riders is a lot of fun, and I think if you have a Switch 2, you should definitely check it out, or at least request it from Santa for this upcoming Christmas, because I think that this is a game that you can have a lot of fun with, and I think the online aspect, City Trials will 100% keep you busy for hours and hours on end. I think the other 2 modes, maybe not so much, because I did like a few rounds of Top Ride online, and even though it's only 4 players, it took like couple minutes to get the lobbies full.
It takes a while. No one's playing Top Ride.
No one's playing that mode. No one's even playing like the regular racing mode. Like everyone's just playing City Trials, and it makes sense because like that sort of open world aspect of you just running around trying to hit other players, get the power ups, get your cart to be better is a lot of fun. And then you get to that one mini game, and it's like, okay, this is what it comes down to. So yeah, Kirby Air Riders. Definitely something that I would recommend if you own a Switch 2. I don't think you should go out of your way to get a Switch 2 for it. But like Damian said, if you didn't like Kirby Air Ride on the GameCube, don't play this one because I think it's more or less the same.
Yeah, I mean, you should buy a Switch 2 for Bonanza.
Yes,
do that.
Bonanza.
And then get Kirby Air Riders.
Bonanza's very good.
Alrighty, so I guess So in terms of news, there wasn't really any news because Game Awards is around the corner. So we really only have Stranger Things season 5 to talk about here. So.
Yes. So just to dive into it, because I talked about Stranger Things earlier this year because I was doing that random rewatch. Did not finish season 4 on my rewatch because, like I said, those episodes are extremely fucking long. But with this season, I think they found a nice middle ground. I think the first 3 episodes are not an hour long, and then obviously the finale for volume 1 is over an hour long. I think it's like an hour
and a half,
hour and a half or hour 20, whatever it is, and I think that is fine. That is cool. But overall, Stranger Things is still like a great fucking show. I think to anyone that is still miffed by it, I tried to like get my girlfriend to watch it, but she just doesn't care about it anymore, especially with, the things certain actors have done within the show and said have things that they've said to the press and whatnot. But anyway, Stranger Things season 5, volume 1, these first 4 episodes, I will say is extremely good. I was taken aback by how tight knit everything was, like how they were able to really make sure that everything made sense for this new season and for it to actually feel like the final season as well, where everything really is coming together for this final sort of adventure these kids are going on.
Yeah. And again, I know there's a lot of nitpicky things people could do about the show. But like you said, after so many years and so many delays between seasons, I still think it's really good. Like you said, I'm surprised that they were able to keep it as continuous as they are. Obviously, the characters' ages are going to be always up to debate and be like, oh, they're too old now. But I feel like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It doesn't really bother me as much as other people because obviously time has passed in this series. There are older teenagers at this point. I believe they're supposed to be 16 now or something. I believe that's the canon ages. And it's fine. there's so many shows and movies where it's like this guy is like a 16-year-old, but he's obviously like 30, and it's like it doesn't really matter. Like that never bothered me. And I think them able to continue to plot lines, especially after the events of season 4 with Hawkins kind of just like splitting in half, and then them kind of living in quarantine. Like I think they cover that stuff pretty well. Like maybe I would have seen it. I would have liked it a bit more if it was a bit more Doomsday-y in there, like because they still are just going to school and stuff. Like it would be cool if they were like fully like like military, like, oh, we can't do shit. But I think they did a good job sort of just continuing on, and like we get to see more of these characters because it's been so long, like I forgot season 4 was like 3 years ago at this point. So
yeah, it has been quite some time in between the last season, and just to open this one up with them being like, establishing the crew again to see where they're at, and them just like, I guess like metal, just like putting metal on top of those, crevices. I was like, that shit's not gonna work, which is obviously what we see at the end of episode 4. But just us getting back into these characters and seeing the sort of status quo for everyone, like first up seeing that the Byers is now living with the Wheelers. That was like a really fun little dynamic that we had there. Cause I was like, what the fuck is like Joyce doing these days? Oh, she's just helping out Eleven and Hopper and sort of being there as like the sort of middle ground between them. Cause obviously they are both stubborn characters, I will say. But yeah, I really do like that these first 4 episodes have really given pretty much every single character something to do. Like there's something going on with them that we are able to follow and really be able to invest ourselves in. Even out of like the main 4, I would say maybe like Lucas is like the sort of like weakest one right now because, I
he's
feel
just like max battery.
Yes, a lot of his character is relying on him just like waiting on Max to like wake up. But he still has some good moments with Mike and Nancy and even Dustin, like with him being as torn about Eddie as he is. I think it makes sense. It does feel like the character is like regressing a little bit, but you have to also understand that, this is still a kid that we're talking about here. He just lost someone that he literally just met and was someone that he really looked up to much more than Steve did. I feel like Eddie was someone that he could really see himself being compared to like Steve, right? Steve is, the popular kid, and, even though he's kind of like maybe stuck in like his hometown kind of thing, he has his own story going on, but I feel like Dustin's character really is able to really latch on to Eddie, and that's why he's really torn up about it.
Yeah, it's good they didn't just like, forgot about Eddie. I'm sure, I don't know if they expected him to be as popular as they did, but like, after season 4, like, people loved Eddie. I did as well. Like I thought he was a great written character. And, Stranger Things always have like a kind of a bad habit of like killing any character they introduce in the season. So it was cool to see Eddie's spirit live on in Dustin. I think Eddie would have been a cool recurring character, but his death at the end, or, towards the end of season 4, I think it was well done. And seeing him carry that spirit of the Hellfire Club, I believe it was called, and like just making sure, like, because everyone's blaming Eddie for like causing all this, because like the satanic panic stuff that was going on. It's like, oh, this is obviously his fault. Like they're doing shit to his grave, and seeing Dustin sort of like carry on that spirit, I think that's good. Like, and mostly because he was the most connected to Eddie between all the other characters, so it was cool to see him just like sort of like embodied him at this point. Like he's wearing like the shirt, like he just looks like him now. So I think that's a good character arc for Dustin to go through. It's also cool to see like Mike get some stuff. Like I feel like Mike hasn't really had too much to do. Seeing him take more of a leadership role again was nice, because I feel like during the first few seasons he was like kind of like the leader of the boys, and then like over time he was kind of just like relationship stuff with Eleven, and like that's it. So it's cool to see, especially towards the end of the season, like he started taking more of like that leadership role again. So I think that was cool as well. And obviously Will is the biggest, like he actually does things this season instead of being kidnapped, so that's cool. So Will is actually able to get a decent amount of screen time, and he's able to directly help with the investigation and really figure out what's going on with Vecna, and him finding out everything that's happening with Robin, I thought was really dope, because they're both like the gay characters of the show, and them being able to relate to each other with that connection, and them also figuring out what's going on with Vecna and like Mr. What's-It and everything like that. Holly Wheeler, I was honestly very surprised to see her
become like such a pivotal character within the show, because we always
forgot she existed as a character.
Like ever since season 1 we see that Mike and Nancy have another sibling, their sister Holly, and the show's been going on for so long that they were able to now make her a actual pivotal character within season 5. And I honestly really like her portrayal of it. Just seeing how Vecna is kind of repeating what he did all those years ago, or maybe year ago, I guess, ever since.
I think it's been a year in universe. So.
Ever since, Will has been kidnapped, and now we get to see how he's doing it again with Holly and sort of her classmates, and how these kids are now trying to stop that. Holly has a lot of great scenes within the house, right before the goddamn Demogorgon kidnaps her. And then her scenes with Max, I think, are really, really well done.
Yeah, I think, the storyline they're doing with Vecna and Mr. What's-It's pretty interesting, very I guess Freddy Krueger type vibe going on, where he's going into these kids' minds but instead of being a scary monster, he's kind of being a not a good guy, stranger danger to these kids and take them away. So that's a pretty interesting way to do it. It reminds me a lot of It as well, with how Pennywise would kind of just show up and take the kids or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's cool. I do think, the Demogorgon scene with the Wheeler household has been a big source of controversy at the moment because of, the mom not dying. I do agree. As soon as I saw the mom get shredded by the Demogorgon, she's dead as shit. And then she wasn't. So that was interesting. That is one thing I think Stranger Things has always been afraid of doing, is killing major characters. Yeah. And I feel at this point you probably should. I don't think you need to kill characters to make a story good or anything. But I do feel it would have added a lot of weight to this and make Vecna feel like an Omega threat, be holy shit, he just killed my parents, that's a big deal. Yeah. Especially when you get gashed like that, that's crazy, right? And I know people are also making a big stink of her, she was able to hurt the Demogorgon with a glass bottle, but a bunch of AK-47s weren't. But it's whatever. Yeah. So yeah, I get that, but it was still a good scene. I think that was a very tense scene with the Demogorgon in the house and them hiding in the bathtub, waiting for him to go away. I think it was well done, and I think out of all the CGI, I think the Demogorgon still look really good. I think they really improved since obviously the first season. There's some iffy special effects in this season, especially some of the green screens look kind of bad.
When they go up that tower.
Yeah, that's been the constant thing people have been posting. That didn't look super great, but I think the Demogorgon scenes or anything with the upside down still looks really good to me. And that scene in general, I think it was good. I do think she probably should have died, but I think it was still a really tense scene, and you still get the impression that Vecna isn't playing around. He wants these kids for who knows what at this moment, but I thought it was still a good scene. I think like you said, Stranger Things really does have a bad case of the main characters have a ton of plot armor, and then whatever characters they introduce that season, they're most likely not gonna make it. Especially with season 4, I think people were really upset with Chrissy dying really, really early on, because people were really getting into her character. Then obviously Eddie dying by the end of the season was a huge thing as well. So, they definitely have a really bad track record of trying to keep new characters around and really making sure that the old cast stays around, because maybe the creatives are too afraid to kill them because it might cause a huge backlash thing, even though it's the final season, right? We can mess around with these characters' lives. Not to say that, like you said, it's not necessary for the story to be good, but just to feel that there's actual stakes at hand, right? Yeah, I agree.
We didn't need one of the main 4 kids to die within the earlier season, but I feel maybe some of the side characters could have bit the dust, maybe 1 or 2 of them. But
yeah, I mean, if any character is gonna die, it's probably Steve or Hopper. I feel they have the most red flags.
Don't even get me started with Hopper. Every season, bro, this guy's trying to die.
Yeah, I think he wants to die at this point. So yeah,
he is trying to get himself killed. But yeah, the Wheeler parents living, I was just damn, what the fuck? We're in the hospital. We're not at a funeral.
Yeah, that's what
they actually made it.
She lived. Yeah,
I was they actually made it. I was if Ted died, I wouldn't care. But Karen Wheeler, I was she was actually getting some character going there, because
she had some stuff in season 3. I think she had some stuff. Yeah, so
she has some stuff within season 3, and I feel like this season she was finally trying to break out of like, you know, her marriage with Ted, and like finally realizing that like this guy's a fucking piece of shit and he's not really doing anything. But, you know, I just found it really crazy that they chose to let her live, because I think a lot of people, when they were watching that, they were like, oh shit, she's fucking dead. Yeah. But, you know, it is what it is. I think them nitpicking about like, oh, but the Demogorgon couldn't die within Russia, I think it's because you know, Stranger Things fans, including myself, are like, well, you know, that was in Russia and like it was super duper cold. Maybe it's a lot warmer within Hawkins. I don't fucking know. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm gonna just let that fly, and then hopefully maybe the sort of Wheeler parents could come in at some point later within the season and actually do something useful in terms of why they're still alive, right? Because I feel like, you know, there's a reason to that.
Yeah. At least I would hope so.
Yeah, you would hope so. But yeah, I mean, what's it called? I guess Max is like the other like big reveal that they had going on when Holly was in this sort of like Vecna memories dimension or whatever. And, you know, she's like living her best life. And it's like, oh, who is this like mysterious character within the woods that we're following? And honestly, I had no idea who it was going to be. It probably should have been Max when I was like really thinking about it now looking back. But that reveal was still like insane, because I was like, oh shit, like this is where she's been this whole time, and that's why she's in the coma.
Yeah, like honestly, it got me too. I'm like, oh shit, it's Max. You know, I was shocked that they were gonna do stuff for her. Well, not shocked that we're gonna do stuff for her, but like I guess this early. Like I was expecting her to wake up and like have a presence in the later half of this season, because she is a big fan favorite character. Mm-hmm. But you know, her being in like this mind prison with Vecna does make a lot of sense. So I'm glad she was able to like, you know, have that deep dive in Vecna's mind and like see his past, and now be like trapped in his mind prison, and now helping all these other kids, or at least Holly, to like get into like a safe space is pretty interesting. And, you know, it kind of builds up that mystery of like why like maybe Vecna doesn't want to go into like this cave, like why he's so scared of it. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of like open-ended mystery still left in this like season that I'm excited to see like what the deal is with that. Mostly because like I thought I got most of Vecna's backstory in season 4, so I was like really curious, like, oh, we actually are going to get more of like what he was like before, you know, the you know, his powers are going into the Upside Down and fighting 11. So that's pretty interesting. So and of course, you know, like Max is just a good character, so I'm happy to see her like really get more screen time in general, because she was a big highlight in season 4. Like all her scenes like in that season were like amazing. So having her be here is great. So yeah, definitely interested to see like how they're gonna like get through like that plot point, because that seems kind of crazy.
Yeah, I was honestly very amazed by how they were able to explain what Max has been doing this whole time, and sort of how she's in this dimension with Vecna's memories, and she actually did have a encounter with Vecna, and how she's safe within the caves because it's a memory that he doesn't want to open. You know, he doesn't want to relive that sort of part of his past. But yeah, you know, Sadie Sink is always amazing, and I cannot wait to see what her story has entail. And I'm sure when she finally wakes up, that's going to be a huge, powerful moment for the story. I guess the other part of the story that we should talk about is Derek Turnbow, one of the new kids that they have been sort of advertising and sort of teasing leading up to this season. People are like, who the fuck is this kid? And then it turns out that, dipshit Derek. And it turns out that he's like a fucking MVP. He, you know, his introduction was definitely not that great, but it is understandable because he's just like, what the fuck is going on here? You know, and he just feels like that he doesn't really know much. And then once he sees the Demogorgon and he fucking locks it, he's like, all right, what do we need to do? What is going on? You know, he locks it. He's pretty much in within that plan. And that last episode, just episode 4 in general, was just so much fun to just watch them really try to get ahead of Vecna. And obviously it doesn't end up all that well, but I think them trying their best to really come ahead and really try to be one step forward of him was very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think them, like even like try to do like the crawls, like I totally forgot to talk about that, like going into like the Upside Down and like them planning out like try to find Vecna before he could strike again. Like, you know, they were obviously taking like an active role in like trying to like kill this dude for real. Yeah. So yeah, and seeing them try to outsmart him once like the Mr. What's-It stuff started coming up, like I think that was a smart way to do it. Like I still think like like the Vecna's curse from the last season like was a bit more compelling just because like that was like the whole season, and I think that was like just really stressful to watch every single time it happened.
Yeah.
But like still this Mr. What's It stuff and like taking these kids and seeing like where they're going, like what Vecna is trying to do with them. I think that's also a pretty compelling mystery in of itself. And you know, just like trying to go into the Upside Down and see what he's really up to is also pretty interesting. And you know, that's like sort of like another part of the story we haven't even talked about, like just like the whole what's up, like the Upside Down, like you know, they're just in there now. They got helicopters in there and shit. I didn't know you could do that. So you know, crazy to see like more of that and like the whole flesh wall thing. Like, you know, there's definitely like a lot of like lingering questions of like what the fuck is happening in a lot of this. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I honestly love that this is the first time that they are trickling in the episodes. Obviously, everyone was upset when it first happened because it was like, I want to watch everything all at once. But I think it makes sense because now you go on Twitter and you see these crazy and insane theories, and some of them make sense, some of them don't. But I think that is just the fun part of watching a show week to week or, you know, batch to batch or whatever, because you're able to discuss and really theorize in terms of what the heck's going to happen within the next part of the season. And, you know, Stranger Things is definitely one of, if not the biggest show on the planet right now. So, you know, just to see them really trickling in stuff and really put sort of little subtlety things in there for us to really think about and really, you know, keep an eye out in terms of like what's going to happen within the next part of the season. But yeah, the Upside Down, them just like going in there and, you know, Hopper being Hopper, he's like, you're not coming in with me. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, why are we doing this back and forth with 11? And obviously, you know, once the Demogorgon gets into the Wheeler's house, Nancy's like, fucking get in there, find him. And I was like, okay, yeah. She definitely wanted to make sure that Demogorgon was found. And, you know, I really questioned in terms of like the Duffer Brothers, in terms of like their like storytelling, right? Because every single season is kind of the same in terms of like the structure, right? Because like there's always parts of the group that are split off, finding out different parts of like the overall narrative and then them coming together to piece it together, right? It is nice that everyone is in Hawkins or within the Upside Down of Hawkins, but at the same time, it's like they're doing it again where everyone's split up or like gets split up at certain points because they're like, well, if we do this might be a good thing. And it's like, well, shit, fucking do it, whatever, you know?
Yeah, they always do that. And, you know, it does get kind of annoying when you're following one plot line and then like getting to like sort of like a climax of it and then it switches to another scene. Like, you know, Stranger Things has always done that, but it does get kind of annoying where it's like especially with the Max stuff, I was just like, oh man, what's happening here? And then it switches scenes. I'm like, God damn it, I want to see what's happening. So yeah, like I guess to keep you in suspense and to like, you know, kind of combine all the plot lines together. But you know, when you do that every season, it kind of gets a bit old. I do agree. Yeah. Especially with this season, I think it would have been cool if they were just all together. And maybe like the last bits aren't going to be like, it's just like one continuous, like them all together moment, but fucking adventures or whatever. But yeah, like I do agree. It could get a bit old, especially like this season. I'm just like, okay, like we know we're doing it again. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, I get it.
Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get to like the last bits of episode 4?
No, like I do really want to talk about like the next part you have here, like really bad. So yeah.
So you want to talk about 8?
Yes.
Callie,
okay. So
Callie return.
Alrighty. So holy shit. So okay, when I was watching this, I did think they actually had Vecna. They had Vecna. Like the military found him first, and then he was getting these children for whatever reason to like break free. I did not expect 8. Like I did not expect that shit at all. When that showed up, I was like, holy shit, they didn't retcon it. I was like so shocked that they did that. And I was surprised because, you know, people hated that episode. People hated that episode to death. You know, they had the perfect out with season 4. Like they could just said like, oh, that definitely was retconned. You know, the Henry stuff, that's like basically the new backstory for like the other numbers. But no, like they showed flashbacks to that episode and specifically, I'm just like, holy shit, like they're actually doing it. And, you know, I'm not even saying like I'm a fan of that stuff. Like, you know, I'm happy we went to the story direction that they did and we didn't have some like CW superhero shit with Stranger Things. But I'm just like, I give them mad props for like even like bringing this up again because like that was always like such a blind spot in the story of being like this major revelation that happened and no one ever talked about it because everyone hated it. So them bringing it back in the military using this other girl for whatever reasons for like psychic like weaponry, I think that's a really cool way to bring it back. I do like that a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, I was also very surprised. I think no one had it on their fucking bingo card that Callie was going to return for Stranger Things 5. No one fucking knew that was going to happen. And for them to do it, like you said, that is super ballsy, but I have to give it to them because I think it really gave us the surprise factor and really, really gave everyone as the audience another reason to watch the next batch of episodes, to be like, what the fuck is going on here? How did Callie get into the Upside Down? How are they using her powers? How did she end up here? What's been going on between the time when we saw her within season 2 to now, right? And, you know, like you said, season 4, it did feel like that they kind of retconned all that stuff because no one liked that episode. I'm not saying that I'm a fan of it. I definitely understand why people didn't like it, because I still remember being down here in the other room with my brother watching that episode and being like, oh shit, that was like the full episode. All right, now let's go watch the finale. And it definitely feels very disconnected from the rest of the story because it just focuses on Eleven and her character. And I think that's the only time that they've ever done that, where they really split off and really focus on this one thing. Despite, you know, people loving Millie Bobby Brown and sort of her character as 11, people did not like that episode. And for them to really go back to it and really pull from it again and really have it connect it all back together, I'm just so curious how they're gonna fucking do it. If it makes sense, I will give them the applause that they deserve. But if it doesn't, I will just laugh, because I think it was very easy for them to not go back into it. But now that they did, it's gonna be so insane to see how they actually piece it all together.
Yeah, this could obviously be like really bad or really good. Like, I just give them props for not forgetting about it, because that was always my running joke with my brother. I'm like, dude, they're never gonna bring this plot line back. And like, you know, and I'm not saying it was like necessary. Like, I think the things they did with Henry were like way more interesting and made more sense and was just darker in general. Like, I loved what they did with like the other numbers and Henry, but you know, that was still something like I don't like it when writers kind of just straight up retcon something, because I'm like, you know, at least own up to it, right? Yeah. And I'm glad that they are. And using her, like having the government capture her and like using them for their own like whatever needs, I think that's really fucked up. And I think that fits in with the whole tone of the series of like using these psychic like gifted kids for like awful military stuff. So yeah, I give them props for it. Again, it could end really messy, we don't know, but I'm glad that they decided to stick with their guns here. And yeah, I guess the other big moment is Will. I mean, just in general, like I was saying before, they've really expanded Will's character a ton. You know, in the previous seasons, he really was just like, I got captured and like that's it, and he didn't really do anything. So it's really cool to actually see him develop. You know, whatever you want to say about the actor, you know, you're definitely free to say that. I'm not, you know, a fan of like the things he has said, but in terms of like the character and how it fits into Stranger Things, I think everything that he's doing makes sense. Him gaining confidence in himself, him talking to Robin about it's okay to be gay, basically. You know, and especially not talking to 80s, like that's like, you know, like it was a definitely different time when it came to things like that. So it's cool to see like them really connect over that. And it'll be cool to see like how Mike and Will sort of like their relationship like evolve, because obviously obviously Mike isn't gay, like that's very like obvious. And I see some people are very coping with the fact that it's like, no, they're not gonna make them together. That'd be like, I think they are gonna come to a thing where it's like they're like both accepting of like what they are, and like they still like, you know, that's their friend, you know, that's just how it's gonna go. Yeah. So that's cool to see as well. And then obviously, you know, him gaining powers at the end to like, I guess, I don't know if he has the same powers as 11 or he just has the powers to control the like demigorgons, but I guess he has the same powers as Vecna, and you know, it makes sense. I saw some people say it's like a jump the shark moment, but I don't think so. He was in the Upside Down for so long. I think out of any character, I think he was in the Upside Down the most than basically anyone, and I think that's how Vecna even got his powers to begin with. So it makes sense that he was able to like start controlling these demigorgons and like crush them the same way Vecna did with all the people in the last season. I think it was a really cool moment, and you know, it really makes Will into this force to be reckoned with. And you know, he had this whole character arc of being more independent and like seeing he could do these things, and now here we are. So really excited to see what they do at the end, because now they're gonna have 11, 8, and now Will to like take down Vecna. So I feel like that should be enough at this point. But you know, Vecna did aura farm super hard at the end.
Oh my
like,
god, yeah,
got this whole new look. He's just like started killing people crazy. Like it was awesome. So yeah.
yeah, just that whole action sequence. I think before Vecna arrives, I think that's all one shot. I think that's all one take. I believe it just looked so insane and so chaotic, and I loved it. I love just seeing the Demogorgons throwing around the goddamn military people as we're following Mike trying to save these kids from those Demogorgons. And when Vecna finally arrives, you know, I think one of the creators or directors was like, yeah, we took inspiration from Darth Vader in Rogue One. And I was like, that fucking makes sense, because he literally shows up and just fucks shit up, just literally destroys everything with like no sweat, no energy whatsoever. And then that one part where like that guy's like trying to get up and then the fucking claws go through him, I was like, holy shit, what the fuck?
Oh my god, bro. Jesus.
Yeah, honestly, I wish Stranger Things did more stuff like that, because I think it really does fit the tone of this series when appropriate, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that whole sequence was amazing. And, you know, Will tapping into Vecna's powers, whether that is temporarily or if it's something that he can actually just continuously do throughout the season from now on. I have no idea, but I really do like the way that they were building his character up, showing that he is trying to break free of, you know, Joyce / his mom's grasp, and being like, you know, if we did your plan, yeah, it's the safest plan, but we wouldn't have gotten shit done. We wouldn't have figured out
your plan
that,
sucked,
like,
Mom.
we wouldn't have figured out that, like, Mr. What's-It is Vecna, and, like, Vecna is trying to take all these kids. Like, nothing would have happened. And, you know, for him to finally gain that independence to, you know, capsulate within him, saving his friends, saving Mike, Lucas, and Robin was insane. That was so cool. And yeah, you know, that was just such a great way to end that episode and end this first part of the season, because I think right now it's like the highest rated episode on IMDb, rightfully so. You know, there is definitely a lot of great episodes within Stranger Things, and that one is definitely within top 5 easily. But yeah, you know, for the rest of Stranger Things 5, I just cannot wait to see what's going to happen. I believe the next batch of episodes will drop around Christmas. And then shortly after that, the final episode will premiere on New Year's Eve. So yeah, Stranger Things 5, I just cannot wait to see what this season has in store. They are very much aware of the sort of Game of Thrones effect, where they're like, we cannot fuck up this ending, guys. So I just want to see what they do.
Yeah, I think there was like some picture going around Twitter where it was like Mike talking to Hopper in his sheriff outfit, and people say, "Why is he doing that?" So like I you know, there's 2 endings that people are saying, like, obviously none of this is confirmed, but like oh, it's all a D&D game. I would actually like shoot myself if that was the case. Like, please don't do that.
I would also shoot myself.
And also like time travel, because I think they brought up something with like time or whatever, with Max going through that. But that was more like his memories. So I don't think they're gonna go the time travel route. If they do, I would also like not be happy. So yeah, like I hope they just find a way to end this nicely or not nicely. You know, if they want to have a bad ending, go ahead, I guess. But like, you know, just have like some satisfying ending that makes sense to the world. Again, the worst ending would be if it's all a D&D game. I would actually lose it. I would really end this because the show sucks. But right now I think this is a really strong first half of this season. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. Again, my favorite seasons are 1 and 4. Like I absolutely love seasons 1 and 4, and this is definitely up there. I just gotta have to wait to see how it ends, and then we'll see. You know, obviously there's like tiny things to nitpick with the show, like with anything, and you know, the more popular the show is, the more people are gonna nitpick little things. But I still think Stranger Things has always been like a pretty good show. Like I've always really liked it. So. Yeah, I don't know. I do feel like sometimes get a bit too much hate online with like some people, but obviously that doesn't really matter when the IMDb is going crazy like that. So, you know, it really is just more like the loud majority. You know, you got problems with it, but I still think it's a really good show. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, not every show is going to be perfect, but I think Stranger Things, in terms of like a modern television show that people have been following for like the past, 10 years or whatever.
10 years.
It's like, you know, this is definitely one of them that has its moments that are really, really high, and I think the lows are like not even that low. Like even with like season 2, episode 7, like that's definitely like the lowest.
That's the lowest, yeah.
And then it's like a huge gap, and then it's like the other episodes or like whatever moments you might have. But yeah, you know, Stranger Things, very, very good. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Damian?
No, that's about everything.
All right. So thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 177. We'll see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
Yep. See ya.